Good morning. How are you? Thank you for having me. So I'm still a little bit jet lagged traveling from San Francisco. But I'm definitely staying awake and probably need a couple more coffees. So thank you for making it today. Let's see. So my name is Edith Yeung, and I'm actually born. I usually would try to do this particular presentation in Chinese, but my Chinese is definitely not good enough. So I will do this whole presentation in English, but I do actually speak Chinese. I was actually born and raised in Hong Kong. But similar to most of the other Chinese product, I was shipped overseas a little over 20 years ago. I actually worked out of San Francisco. Actually started my career as a developer. Not a very good one, but I joined a company called Siebel System doing CRM for about 6 years. Oracle bought Siebel, I went to Oracle. After Oracle, I went to Autodesk. Autodesk make AutoCAD and Maya. After 10 years, mostly enterprise software, I decided to start my own company. One of the companies that I was really involved with is a company called Dolphin Browser. Dolphin is actually a homegrown Chinese team from Beijing and Wuhan, and we grew from 0 to 150 million installed worldwide. Sequoia and Nature's Partner and Qualcomm backed us, and about a year and a half ago, sold it to a Chinese gaming company called Changyou for about 179 million. And then I decided to join 500 Startup. I think it's a really fun thing, and there's so much thing to learn with early stage investment, particularly with virtual reality, which is what I'm going to focus on today. So I tend to talk pretty fast, and particularly with presentation, so to give you a little bit of framework how we're going to structure this particular talk. Is I'm going to spend basically about 5 minutes or so to tell you a little bit more, since I'm doing investment, just in terms of the landscape of virtual reality, in terms of investment, particularly focus on the US. And then about 20 different predictions I think will be really fun and exciting to apply some of the things that our previous speaker, our professor, how do you actually use these technology to apply to some of the use cases and scenario that I'm super excited about. All right, so the virtual world is calling, and I think it's kind of fun and ironic to see that we just hear from a professor from NYU, and I don't know if you guys know, Pokemon Go, New York City is the #1 Pokemon Go city in the world. I was actually traveling over there. I swear to God, in one day I caught 250 Pokemons. It was super fun. And the funniest thing, I highly encourage, you guys should go to Central Park. Literally every single step on the way, there's at least like 20 Pokemons running around. It's amazing. So, but it's all fun and game, but obviously I focus a lot of investment related things. So 500 Startups, we're an early stage investment firm. Actually pretty active in the more frontier tech, a lot of VR, IoT, augmented reality. We got really lucky early on, about 3-4 years ago, get a chance to invest in Microbot, which is a 3D printer, and got bought by, I think, I forgot, Stratasys for about 400 million. So we got lucky with some of the investment, but we definitely wanted to do more. And I've particularly been just playing, learning a lot of things that relate to virtual reality, which I'm going to share today. So for the past few years, there's over $3.3 billion been invested in virtual reality, and just $2 billion invested alone in the last 12 months. If you look at, what do actual funding go into what? So obviously a lot of different hardware, but there's a lot of platform companies that is not necessarily like the content side of things, but in fact, how do you actually develop on the software layer more and more of these experiences? So there's a lot of sort of the top 10 most funded company in terms of AR, VR, starting from Magic Leap, which is crazy, $1.39 billion. No one have really played with it yet. But a lot of these, other than hardware, a lot of like to do with camera, it's basically half and half between hardware versus developer platform. Super interesting to look at. But of course, if any of you are working on virtual reality, and you also always have to think about what are some of the big guys doing. This is me not familiar with the China market. I'm very sure Baidu, Alibaba, Tencent are also doing a lot of different things, but just to focus on Google, Facebook, and Apple are doing, they're definitely acquiring a lot of VR, AR related companies, and particularly I would say more AR related. Because if you think about it, right, so particularly with Apple, I think the likelihood of them wanting you to get away from iPhone is not likely. And plus, there's a lot of data, particularly on iCloud, with your photo. Can you imagine, like, if all the photos that you already have and all the different scenario, the photo that on iCloud, now you can, you know, attach and put another layer of augmented reality experience on it. It's super fascinating. And plus, they already have all these data, and using computer vision, be able to recognize, oh wow, you know, these are the 10 people who are my best friend, and these are like the 5 dresses that I really like to wear. And they can actually, a lot of really, really interesting things and development can be done with existing data that you have, plus AR-related technology. So who else? So many of you, if you're working on virtual reality, and it's very, very expensive to develop, so who are you going to get money from? So as I said earlier, 500 startups, obviously, I'm very, very interested in learning about what you're working on, but there's a whole bunch of other VCs, particularly in Silicon Valley, are really, really active. A few things I wanted to point out is that a lot of media company, and I actually heard from the grapevine, obviously BAT and also like iQIYI and other platform in China already investing and actually paying for certain VR content. So same thing for the US, Comcast, Time Warner, Disney, you name it, like a lot of these media companies are also actively investing and acquiring AR or VR related companies. So this is the, sort of the complete framework, like if you think about AR, VR, like so for every single new platform, particularly as a venture capital, we always sort of had to think about what exactly should we focus on in terms of investment, right? So we talked quite a bit about sort of hardware side of things. So in the US, not compared to China, I heard there's like 40, 50 of these different VR headsets that you can play with in China. But in the US, there's really 4 major players, right? So Oculus, HTC, Samsung, and also PlayStation VR. And most of these, if you're working on hardware, I tend to stay away from it, not because that you can't do it, and particularly Shenzhen is the hardware capital of the world, but be able to really make a hardware and be able to push out to millions and millions of people, it takes a lot of money. Right now, I think as far as my research goes, I think this year, it's not going to be more than 10 million in terms of units for head-mount display, and most of these are coming from the 4 big guys. And the rest of the sort of the cheaper handset, most of them is definitely not more than single-digit millions. So imagine if you're working on a headset, it needs a lot of capital. So we tend to stay away from that. But having said that, you know, there's a lot of different layer of things on software in terms of helping virtual reality for development tools. So Unity, Unreal aside, there's a whole lot of other things can be improved. So a lot of companies are working on that. I was actually talking to a company a few months ago working on VR advertising platform. And obviously this is a little bit too early, but people are definitely thinking through what are the different components, if you can imagine, that mobile have. Doesn't matter from analytics or from monetization, everybody thinking about how you're going to do it with virtual reality as well. And then of course, you know, the way I look at a lot of the various different apps so in the mobile world is the different content that you see in virtual reality. When I look at content, what that really means is B2B and B2C. So let's say the obvious one that everybody talks about is gaming, but frankly, I haven't played any games that I could handle for more than 20 minutes without getting sick. So I think it still take a little bit of time. But other than gaming experiences, various different movies, music, sports, those are more B2C. This is gonna take time for you know, more headset to come to get to the point with mass adoption. But there's actually B2B VR focused company already making money. And what that means is, well, travel, education, medical, real estate, all these guys are actually already monetizing because there's actual real need of companies and brands who want to utilize VR for their business. All right, so now what I'm gonna do is take the next 10, 15 minutes or so to talk about some of the use cases that I personally have played with, which I think is really, really fun, and for you guys to think about, like if you are thinking about developing your own VR and you know what could it be and how the future will look like. I originally wanted to play this particular video, but this is my first investment in VR, and Eugene Chung, who I have the honor to invest in, he's the CEO of Penrose Studio. Is a really, they developed their own IP, very focused on sort of the movie experience in terms of VR. And Eugene was actually one of the first person that I got to know when I wanted to learn about VR, because he was used to be the head of content for Oculus. So he got the chance to basically work on VR for the last 3 or 4 years, really rare to find. And so like their strategy, they literally like in the Valley, people sort of positions them as the Pixar of VR. The two experiences that they have, the first one is called The Rose and I. It's basically based on the story of the Little Prince. And I remember like the first time I put on the headset, I just felt like it was one of the most magical experiences that I ever had. And I got the chance to see the Little Prince. I walked towards it, and I can see the Little Prince climb out from the little hole in the little planet, and I can walk around it, I can see it, and I can kind of kneel down and be able to see a very different perspective of how this story has been around for so long and how it's being portrayed in a completely different way, and it's just magical. So the geeky side of me really want VR to get mass adoption, but still it takes a little bit of time, but I do think that VR movies and experiences is definitely amazing. Second thing, so by the way, like a lot of the travel companies or hotels are already are doing some of these. So instead of you paying 10 or 20,000 US to go to Africa, maybe I should actually create some of these experiences. You put a headset on, you feel like you're already in Africa, in Amazon, in the safari, and be able to see these animals like walking around you. So this is something that a lot of the VR studio and basically get commissioned by some of these big brands to create these sort of experience. So VR travel is definitely coming. So this is actually not just a movie. I should change the title a little bit. It's a mixed reality experience that I tried 2 months ago in New York. I definitely don't want to do advertising for them, but it's definitely one of the best mixed reality experience I have experienced. What that means is, as most of you guys have played with, actually, how many of you have played with VR experience before? Oh wow, you guys are so advanced, awesome. I should probably get off stage now. There's no need to talk about all this. But I have to say, this particular experience have no wire attached to anything. Most of the processing was actually in a backpack. So I wear a backpack, and then I have a headset on. And then you can see literally and then I have a gun. It's actually a proton gun. And when I put this headset on, it's a real time. I get to see my 3 other friends. We walk it in together. And this ghost will fly out, and then I just start shooting it. And it's real time. So as we are walking around, all 4 of us were able to interact with the ghost real time. And as we're walking, I can also see my friend walking along with me, real time. And one of my friends, she got really scared because she had low motion sickness. And we were walking on the bridge, and we were all really scared. We didn't want her to step on it. And she grabbed hold of the railing, and when she touched it, it was there. So it's a mix, not just virtual reality, it's a mixed reality experience combined with what you see and be able to manipulate the objects as you see it. That's amazing. And this is something that is coming, but obviously it's still very expensive to build something like this. And it's a company, of all things, out of Utah. It didn't come from Silicon Valley. They've been developing it for a long time. So I think more of this experience is gonna come, but it's just one of the most experiences I have. And I paid $50 US for 15 minutes of experience, and it's well worth it. All right, number 4, in terms of sort of the future and prediction, this is something sort of happening already, is VR journalism. Can you imagine like all these news that's talking about Syria, instead of reading about it and watching certain video, you put a headset on, and now you're actually in a real life experience. You can really feel that the emotion or like things that's happening around you. Actually, 3 years ago, New York Times gave out like 1 million units of Google Cardboard, wanting more of their readers to experience VR. And I can totally see more and more journalists will think about how we can tell the story using virtual reality. Number 5 is VR real estate. There's actually a few companies in the US really, really well funded already doing VR, real estate. I heard that Sunjin real estate is also super expensive. So can you imagine if you have to spend, I don't know, a couple million, actually probably more, 5 or 6 million RMB to buy a home? Why wouldn't the real estate agent be willing to pay a little bit of the money so that you can sort of walk around and be able to share with your family and friends? This is how the home look like, and be able to share. And the real estate agent happy to pay, I don't know, a few $100 or maybe a couple thousand RMB to create this experience, because it's gonna help them to sell this particular real estate. So it's a real, tangible use cases that people are already paying for today. VR education. So this particular photo is something that's actually already working. This is not a prediction. There's a company actually called Z-Space, funded by Foxconn founder Terry Guo, and is a really special built monitor with glasses and also with a pen. So similar to what this kid is doing. So when I put it on, this particular object is a heart. It flows in the middle, and then I was able to use this pen to manipulate the objects and to turn it back and forth. Is absolutely amazing. But having said that, it's still a little bit expensive to buy this whole set. It's about $5,000 US. And most of these scenarios now is related to medical or for little kids to sort of learn about the environment. So it's still quite early in terms of the content side of things. But this particular headset is actually already here. Next thing is VR operation for medical. There is actually already one company being acquired. It's called Lens AR that do cataract, like eye surgery, using VR, and got acquired, I think, for about 59 million US. But most of these medical education training for VR is very specific, right? Because even like for doctors, you are heart doctors versus mental disease is all different vertical of medicine. So a lot of these experiences are very, very specific. So, and I'm seeing more and more sort of VR medicine related things been happening. So there's VR live streaming. Well, I don't know if you guys heard of a company called NextVR. They raised about 125 million so far, based out of LA. So this is basically, they got the right for the Olympics, the NBA, and a lot of Live Nation, different music concerts, to basically stream these experiences live, and you'll be able to feel like you're in a concert, or you sit on the court side in the NBA finals. I actually didn't buy that at the very beginning, because I don't feel like, at least for me being in the US, if I'm going to an NBA game, I want to go to the game. Or I sit at a bar with some friends and socialize, right? I don't want to put a headset on. I feel like this is so antisocial. But then I realized I was visiting some friends in Shenzhen. My friends, King is my family friends, and we were talking about, like, he's a big soccer friend, right? I'm talking about you. Like to play soccer. And they will totally get up at 2 or 3 a.m. in the morning to watch the Euro Cup and the World Cup. And they're also, most of them are sitting at home. Then I realized, this is really not for Americans. It's actually for people, the fans around the world who can't be in the same time zone or sitting somewhere with their friends, because they still wanted to feel like they're at the court. That's something why people would pay for, and definitely really, really exciting that this technology is coming out. A couple other things, I'm going to touch a little bit on the AR stuff. This is actually not necessarily new. There's more and more sort of apps that want to have the augmented reality experience. So let's say you go shopping, I take a picture of myself, I'll be able to like change the different clothes that I wear. This technology actually been around for a long time, so it doesn't matter you use an iPhone or Android. You go there, you go to your app store today and basically type augmented reality. There are tons of apps that's there already. But having said that, I don't see yet a really, really good use cases other than Pokemon that people are really going for it. Most of them are a feature within an app. So I look forward to seeing a better use case using AR combined with your actual app that you guys are developing. I really didn't make this up. There are people like doing VR swimming or any sort of VR sports related thing. So can you imagine you're swimming in a pool, but really you feel like you're in Great Barrier Reef? It's sort of ridiculous, but there are people working on it. A couple other things. This is something that I think I would love to see. Last night I was doing another talk and about VR. I think VR shouldn't, as Professor said earlier, shouldn't all about being isolated. It should be about community, about social, search, payment. If these three main things is not happening, this platform is not going to go. So I'm really, really hoping. I used to work on a browser, right? So obviously I'm really into search, social, and I really would love to see something like not necessarily using any sort of hand control. In fact, it should be voice control. I would say something like, I'm hungry, and know that I'm in Shenzhen, and then boom, it actually take me to the actual restaurant, like real time. And be able to do something like that is really, really difficult. Probably a combination of, let's say, when in China, it will be a Baidu search plus a whole lot of actual images and video, and be able to sort of do search real time and be able to present. It's very, very hard to do, but I think when we get that going, I think VR have a really, really strong proposition. A couple other things, this is more for fun, but there are people working on it in the US, is VR office. So imagine that you wake up, brush your teeth, and then put a headset on, and then you don't even need to travel to the office, you're already at the office. It sounds kind of funny, but there are folks already working on being able to stream live, as similar to sports and music. But if you can stream live, you put a headset on, you're already at the office, and you'll be able to see and do conference real time with your colleagues, right? Why do you even need to travel? And you can reduce a lot of CO2 by not having to travel or drive. A couple other things, I think this is me imagining, if you can do VR and be able to capture experience that you have with your loved ones. So imagine one day, your grandparents pass away, and you still be able to put a headset on and remember them and feel them, and have that emotion all back up all again. And this would be really, really amazing to have. VR karaoke. We are in China after all. We all love to sing. So you put a headset on, and now you can like sing with Jackie Chan or Zhou Jielun. It'll be really, really fun. I can totally see this is probably should be the first thing that come to China before anything else. All right, let's see. Okay, I have 4 or 5 more. Is VR smart city planning. This is actually sort of happening already. Imagine that you are imagining in any way, but you use VR as a tool to create the space before you even build it. And I can see a lot of city planning and architect using VR to sort of build up the whole cities and get the normal folks to experience it and get feedback before you actually build it. VR crime scenes. I probably watched too many CSI and sort of shows, but you can totally see that to reenact some of these crime scenes, you can definitely use VR for that. And then VR dining, I didn't make this up. I actually had a VR dining experience, which is a combination of you put a headset on, and the minute that you put that headset on, I'm in a completely different place. And they put a table right in front of me, and with the hand control, they actually put a marshmallow on the control. But then at the same time, they gave me different objects to look at. So when I bite on it, I felt like I was salivating a different taste, even though whatever I eat is not what I see, if that makes any sense. But there are different, this is actually really, really strange, but there are folks people in LA working on things like this. All right, 3 more experience. 4D sensing. Last night I actually went to a mall, and there's these arcade that I was playing with, and sort of like moving around. So in order to get more real experience, it's not only that you visually see it, or your brain tell you that you should feel a certain way, it make it even more real if you can smell it, or if you see wind blowing towards you, and you sort of move, your body move along with the certain movement to make sure that you don't get sick easily. So obviously you see some of things in Disney already, but I can see more and more startup working on a combination of VR and 4D experience. Two more things. One, this is actually something already happening. I think Professor Ken sort of talked about instead of an actual head-mount display headset, could be a glass. But I think even more advanced is actual contact lens. So imagine that you don't even need to put anything on. It's just a contact that you put in your eye, and then you'll be able to see all kind of sort of AR, VR combined experience just through your own eyes. So this particular technology is already patented by Samsung. There's an article written about it, not saying that it's actually working, but there's a lot of the sort of the big companies been patented left and right to make sure that once this is going and ready, it's actually going to be, they're ready to go. And then last but not least, I think like tons of people love esports. There's actually a no-brainer use cases, particularly in Shenzhen and in many parts of China. They're already sort of mix of like doing contests and esports and combining virtual reality. And there's a lot of contests is already happening with that. So with that, that's my, this is my WeChat. So hopefully it works. I just tested yesterday. Happy to chat more. Love to learn more about what you're working on, particularly virtual reality. Thank you.